A devoted wife from Colorado Springs reported her husband missing after he failed to return from a business trip, leaving behind their 2 young children and a mortgage they had just renewed together. But 8 months later, she discovers him living under a different name, with another family 3 states away, and what she does next leaves him fighting for his life in a hospital bed. Victoria Reynolds had always considered herself lucky. After 12 years of marriage to Derek, she still felt butterflies when he walked through their front door each evening. Their brick colonial house on Elm Avenue sat perfectly manicured, complete with the white picket fence Derek had insisted on building himself. Their twin boys, 9-year-old Nathan and Nicholas, worshipped their father, who never missed a soccer game or school play. On the surface, the Reynolds family embodied the American dream. Derek worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative, traveling frequently across the western states to meet with medical practices and hospitals. His job required him to be away from home 3 to 4 days each week, but the income allowed Victoria to stay home with the boys and pursue her passion for interior design part-time. Victoria never questioned Derek's travel schedule or the late-night phone calls he claimed were from clients on the East Coast. She trusted him completely, even when he started taking longer trips and seemed distracted during family dinners. Love, she believed, meant giving your partner the benefit of the doubt. That trust would prove to be the most devastating mistake of her life. The Reynolds met during college at the University of Denver, where Derek studied business and Victoria pursued graphic design. Their courtship felt like something from a romantic movie. Derek would surprise her with handwritten notes tucked into her textbooks, and he once drove 6 hours to bring her homemade soup when she had the flu during finals week. After graduation, they married in a small ceremony at Victoria's childhood church. Derek landed his pharmaceutical job within months, and they settled into domestic bliss. The arrival of the twins 5 years later completed their perfect family portrait. Derek proved to be an attentive husband and father. He coached the boys' Little League team every spring, organized elaborate birthday parties, and never forgot their wedding anniversary. He brought Victoria flowers every Friday and called her beautiful even when she felt exhausted from chasing 2 energetic children around the house. Their neighbors on Elm Avenue often commented on what a wonderful family they were. Victoria volunteered at the school library. Derek maintained their yard to magazine standards, and the boys were polite, well-behaved children who made friends easily. But perfection, as Victoria would learn, can be the most dangerous illusion of all. Derek's job required extensive travel throughout Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. He would leave early Monday mornings and return Thursday evenings, sometimes extending trips through the weekend for what he called major client presentations. Victoria never accompanied him on these business trips, partly because of the boys' school schedule and partly because Derek insisted these trips were too boring for her to enjoy. She did notice small changes over the past 2 years. Derek became more protective of his phone, taking it with him even to the bathroom. He started working out obsessively, claiming he needed to stay in shape for the physical demands of his job. He bought new clothes without consulting her, trading his casual style for more expensive fashionable outfits. When Victoria complimented his new appearance, Derek would shrug and say his clients expected him to look professional. She accepted this explanation because she wanted to believe it. Marriage, she told herself, required adapting to changes and supporting each other's growth. The first real warning sign came during their 11th wedding anniversary dinner. Derek seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly despite Victoria's gentle reminders that this was their special time together. When she asked if everything was all right, he snapped at her in a way that was completely out of character. He apologized immediately, claiming work stress was affecting his mood. Victoria forgave him, because that is what loving wives do. She had no idea that at that very moment, Derek was planning a weekend getaway with another woman who believed she was his only wife. March 15th. Started like any other Monday morning. Derek kissed Victoria goodbye at 6:30 in the morning, hugged the boys, and promised to bring them something special from Phoenix, where he would be meeting with several medical practices. He grabbed his overnight bag, climbed into his silver Lexus, and drove away from Elm Avenue for what Victoria assumed would be another routine business trip. By Thursday evening, Victoria began to worry. Derek usually called every night around 8 o'clock to say goodnight to the boys, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She told herself that client dinners or poor cell reception could explain the silence. Derek was responsible and reliable. He would call soon. Friday morning brought panic. Derek had never stayed away an extra day without calling first. Victoria tried his office number, but the receptionist said Derek was still in Phoenix and should be reachable on his cell phone. When Victoria explained that his phone was going to voicemail, the receptionist seemed genuinely confused. Victoria called Derek's supervisor, Marcus Webb, who immediately expressed concern. According to company records, Derek had completed his Phoenix appointments on Tuesday and should have returned home Wednesday evening. Marcus promised to investigate and call her back within the hour. The return call shattered Victoria's world. Marcus had contacted every client Derek supposedly visited that week. None of them had meetings scheduled with Derek Reynolds. In fact, several practices said they had not heard from Derek in over 6 months, despite his weekly reports claiming regular visits to maintain client relationships. Victoria's hands trembled as she hung up the phone. Where had Derek been going every week for the past 6 months? Who had he been with? What else had he lied about? She immediately called the Colorado Springs Police Department to report Derek as a missing person. Detective Lisa Chen arrived at their house within 2 hours, asking questions that made Victoria realize how little she actually knew about her husband's daily activities. Did Derek have any enemies? Victoria could not think of any. Had their marriage been experiencing problems? Victoria insisted they were happy, though she now questioned every interaction from the past few months. Did Derek have access to large amounts of money? Victoria discovered that their joint savings account had been steadily depleted over the past year, something Derek had hidden from her by handling all their finances. Detective Chen conducted a thorough search of Derek's home office. She found business cards for medical practices. Derek claimed to visit regularly, but when she called to verify, half the offices said they had never heard of Derek Reynolds. His computer browser history had been completely cleared, and his personal email account was password protected with security questions. Victoria could not answer. The investigation revealed that Derek's company credit card had been used for hotel stays and restaurant charges in cities where he supposedly had no business meetings. The pattern suggested Derek had been living an entirely different life during his weekly absences from home. Victoria felt like she was married to a stranger. Every memory of their 12 years together became suspect. Had Derek ever told her the truth about anything? Who was the man she had been sharing a bed with for over a decade? The boys asked when Daddy would come home, and Victoria had no answer. She lay awake each night staring at Derek's empty side of the bed, wondering if he was safe, if he was thinking about them, if he even cared that his family was falling apart without him. As days turned into weeks, Victoria transformed from a trusting wife into a determined detective. She could not accept not knowing what happened to the father of her children, regardless of his deception. If the police could not find Derek quickly enough, she would find him herself. Victoria began her investigation by examining every document in Derek's office. Hidden in a filing cabinet behind old tax returns, she discovered a second cell phone bill addressed to Derek under a slightly different name. The phone number was one she had never seen before, and the monthly charges were substantially higher than their family plan. When Victoria called the number, it went directly to a voicemail greeting, recorded in Derek's voice. "You have reached David Richardson. Please leave a message and I will return your call as soon as possible." David Richardson. Derek Reynolds. The similarity was too obvious to be coincidental. Derek had been using an alias, which explained why some of his business contacts claimed never to have heard of Derek Reynolds. But why would he need a false identity for his legitimate job? Victoria hired a private investigator named Robert Torres, a former police detective who specialized in missing persons cases. Torres had handled dozens of similar situations and assured Victoria that people who disappear voluntarily usually leave more traces than they realize. Within 1 week, Torres uncovered information that made Victoria question everything she thought she knew about her marriage. Derek had been renting a post office box under the name David Richardson for over 3 years. Mail forwarded to that address included credit card statements, utility bills, and bank account information for accounts Victoria never knew existed. More shocking was the discovery that Derek had been making monthly payments on a mortgage for a house in Scottsdale, Arizona. Property records showed that David Richardson and a woman named Isabella Martinez had purchased the home together, 18 months earlier. Victoria stared at the address, while Torres explained what his investigation had revealed. Derek had not just been lying about his business travel, he had been maintaining a completely separate life in Arizona, complete with a different identity, a different home, and apparently a different family. Torres showed Victoria printed photographs from social media accounts belonging to Isabella Martinez. The images showed Isabella with 2 young children, a boy and a girl, at various family activities. In several photos, Victoria recognized Derek, though he looked different with shorter hair and more fashionable clothes. The photographs told a story that broke Victoria's heart. Derek pushing Isabella's children on swings at a code playground. Derek and Isabella at what appeared to be a school function for one of the children. Derek wearing a wedding ring identical to the one Victoria had placed on his finger 12 years earlier. Victoria realized that while she was home in Colorado taking care of Nathan and Nicholas, Derek was in Arizona, playing father to Isabella's children. While Victoria was planning their anniversary dinner, Derek was probably celebrating another anniversary with Isabella. While Victoria was worrying about his business travel, Derek was living as a husband and father to a completely different family. The betrayal felt like a physical wound. Victoria had not just lost her husband to another woman, she had discovered that her entire marriage had been built on lies so extensive that she wondered if Derek had ever loved her at all. Torres continued his investigation and uncovered even more disturbing information. Derek had been forging business documents to justify his travel expenses and had been stealing from his pharmaceutical company by claiming client meetings that never occurred. His deception extended far beyond adultery into serious criminal behavior that could result in federal charges. Victoria faced an impossible decision. She could turn Derek's criminal activities over to the authorities and watch him face prison time, destroying any chance of the boys having a relationship with their father. Or she could confront Derek directly and demand an explanation before involving law enforcement. Her love for her children ultimately guided her choice. Nathan and Nicholas deserved to hear the truth from their father before the police arrested him. Derek owed them that much, regardless of how little he apparently cared about his Colorado family. Victoria decided to find Derek and confront him face to face. She would give him one opportunity to explain his actions and end his double life voluntarily. If he refused, she would have no choice but to protect her children by any means necessary. 8 months after Derek's disappearance, Victoria drove to Scottsdale with a plan that terrified and empowered her in equal measure. She had spent weeks preparing for this confrontation, consulting with lawyers about her legal options, and arranging for the boys to stay with her sister in case the meeting with Derek became complicated. The house Derek shared with Isabella sat in an upscale neighborhood, with palm trees and manicured lawns that looked nothing like their Colorado street. Victoria parked across from the property and watched Derek's silver Lexus in the driveway, the same car he had driven away from their home 8 months earlier. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Victoria rang the doorbell. Derek answered the door wearing casual clothes she had never seen before, and his face went completely white when he saw her standing on the porch. "Victoria." His voice was barely a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "I think the better question is, what are you doing here, Derek? Or should I call you David?" Derek stepped outside and closed the door behind him, clearly trying to prevent Victoria from seeing inside the house or Isabella from overhearing their conversation. "How did you find me?" Derek asked, his hands shaking as he ran them through his hair, a nervous habit Victoria remembered from their early dating years. "It was not that difficult once I started looking. The private investigator I hired found you in less than 2 weeks. Did you really think you could just disappear and start a new life without any consequences?" Derek's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Victoria, I can explain everything. This is not what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like you have been living with another woman and her children while your real family back in Colorado thinks you are missing or dead. It looks like you have been stealing from your company and lying about everything for years. So please, Derek, explain to me what this actually is." Derek glanced nervously at the house behind him, then back at Victoria. "Isabella does not know about you and the boys. She thinks I am divorced and that my ex-wife lives in another state with my children from that marriage." Victoria felt like she had been slapped. "So I am your ex-wife now? When exactly did we get divorced, Derek? Because I seem to have missed that paperwork. I never meant for things to get this complicated." I met Isabella during a business trip 2 years ago, and we started dating. She was going through a difficult divorce and needed someone to help her with the children. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was spending more and more time here. You are married to her, are not you? Victoria's voice was remarkably calm, despite the fury building inside her chest. Derek nodded miserably. We got married 6 months ago in Las Vegas. But Victoria, you have to understand, I love you both. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You love us both? Victoria's calm facade cracked. You love us both so much that you let your real wife and children think you were dead for 8 months? You love us both so much that you stole money from our joint savings account to pay for your second mortgage? You love us both so much that Nathan and Nicholas cry themselves to sleep asking when Daddy is coming home? Derek started crying, which infuriated Victoria even more. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you and the boys. But I was trapped, Victoria. I did not know how to fix it without destroying everything. So your solution was to destroy everything anyway, just secretly. At that moment, the front door opened, and Isabella Martinez stepped outside. She was younger than Victoria, probably in her early 30s, with long dark hair and the kind of effortless beauty that made Victoria suddenly self-conscious about her own appearance. David, who is this? Isabella asked, looking curiously between Derek and Victoria. Victoria looked directly at Isabella and said, I am Derek's wife, his real wife. We have been married for 12 years and have twin sons together. Isabella's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, shock, and then blazing anger as she understood what Victoria was telling her. David, what is she talking about? Isabella demanded. Derek looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. Isabella, I can explain. Explain what? That you are married to someone else. That everything you told me about being divorced was a lie. Victoria almost felt sorry for Isabella, who was clearly another victim of Derek's deception. But her sympathy was limited by the knowledge that Isabella had been living the life that rightfully belonged to Victoria and her children. Ladies, please, let me explain, Derek said desperately. I love you both. I have 2 families because I could not choose between you. I thought I could make it work. Isabella slapped Derek across the face with enough force to leave a red handprint on his cheek. Make it work? You bigamist. You have been lying to me for 2 years. Victoria watched Isabella storm back into the house and slam the door. She turned back to Derek, who was holding his cheek and looking more pathetic than she had ever seen him. I am going to ask you one question, Derek, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Are you coming home with me to face the consequences of what you have done? Or am I going to the police and the FBI with evidence of your fraud, bigamy, and theft? Derek looked at the closed door behind him, then back at Victoria. I cannot just leave Isabella and her children. They depend on me. That was when Victoria realized that Derek had made his choice long before she arrived in Scottsdale. He was not coming home. He was not going to try to repair their marriage or rebuild his relationship with Nathan and Nicholas. He was choosing his second family over his first family, just like he had been doing for months. Victoria felt something break inside her chest, but it was not her heart. It was her last connection to the man she thought she had married. The Derek standing in front of her was a stranger who happened to share the same face as her husband. Then you leave me no choice, Victoria said quietly. What happened next would forever change both of their lives and leave Derek fighting for survival in a hospital intensive care unit. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a folder containing copies of all the evidence Torres had gathered. Bank statements, property records, photographs, and business documents proving Derek's criminal activities. She had intended to use these documents to force Derek to come home and face his responsibilities. I am not leaving here without resolution, Derek. Either you come home and we figure out how to fix this mess together, or I am walking straight to the nearest FBI office with evidence that you have been committing federal crimes for over 2 years. Derek grabbed the folder from Victoria's hands and tried to tear it in half. You cannot destroy my life like this, Victoria. Isabella and her children need me. What about Nathan and Nicholas? Do not they need their father too? Derek's face twisted with anger as he continued tearing pages from the folder. I will not let you ruin what I have built here. Victoria lunged forward to stop Derek from destroying the evidence she needed to protect her children's future. In the struggle, Derek shoved Victoria backward with enough force to send her stumbling down the front porch steps. Victoria fell hard onto the concrete walkway, landing awkwardly on her left arm. She heard something snap and felt immediate, excruciating pain shoot from her wrist to her shoulder. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the rage that consumed her as she watched Derek calmly tear up the last pages of evidence while she lay injured on the ground. "You just assaulted me," Victoria said through gritted teeth, as she struggled to stand up with only one functioning arm. Derek realized what he had done and reached down to help Victoria up. "Oh God, Victoria, I am so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. Let me help you." Victoria jerked away from Derek's outstretched hand. "Do not touch me." She managed to stand up despite the throbbing pain in her arm, which was clearly broken and possibly dislocated. Derek had destroyed most of the physical evidence, but Victoria still had copies at home, and Torres had digital files of everything. "I am calling the police right now," Victoria said, pulling out her phone with her good hand. Derek panicked. "Victoria, please, do not do this. Think about the boys. Do you really want them to grow up knowing their father is in prison?" "I am thinking about the boys, Derek. I am thinking about the fact that their father is a criminal who just physically attacked their mother when she tried to hold him accountable for his actions." Derek grabbed Victoria's phone and threw it as hard as he could against a tree in the front yard. The phone shattered on impact, leaving Victoria with no way to call for help, while standing injured in front of the house, where her husband was living illegally with another woman. That was when Victoria snapped. She picked up a decorative stone from Isabella's garden border and threw it at Derek with her good arm. The stone struck Derek in the temple with enough force to knock him unconscious. He collapsed onto the porch steps, blood immediately beginning to pool beneath his head. Victoria stared at Derek's motionless body and realized she might have just killed her husband. She felt no remorse, only a strange sense of justice finally being served. Derek had destroyed their family with his lies and deception. He had stolen money from their children's future. He had physically attacked her when she tried to protect herself and her sons. He had made his choice, and now he would face the consequences. Isabella heard the commotion and came running outside. When she saw Derek unconscious and bleeding on her front porch, she screamed and immediately called 911. Victoria sat down on the curb to wait for the ambulance and police, cradling her broken arm and watching paramedics work frantically to save Derek's life. She felt oddly calm as she gave her statement to the responding officers, explaining exactly what had happened and why she had come to Arizona to confront her bigamist husband. Derek survived, but he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury that left him with permanent cognitive impairment and partial paralysis. He would never again be the charming, manipulative man who had deceived two families for years. Victoria was charged with assault but ultimately received a suspended sentence after the court heard testimony about Derek's extensive criminal behavior and the circumstances that led to their confrontation. Her lawyer successfully argued that Victoria had acted in self-defense after Derek physically attacked her and destroyed evidence she needed to protect her children's financial future. Derek faced federal charges for fraud, bigamy, and theft. Due to his brain injury, he was declared incompetent to stand trial. But the government seized all of his assets to compensate his victims, including the pharmaceutical company he had defrauded and both families he had financially damaged. Isabella divorced Derek immediately and moved back to her home state with her children. She later testified in Victoria's defense, stating that Derek had deceived both families and that Victoria was as much a victim as anyone else. Victoria returned to Colorado with her arm in a cast, and a story that shocked their quiet community. The neighbors who had admired the perfect Reynolds family were forced to confront the reality that appearances can be devastatingly deceptive. Nathan and Nicholas struggled to understand why their father would choose to live with strangers instead of coming home to his real family. Victoria enrolled them in counseling and worked hard to rebuild their sense of security and trust. She told them that sometimes people make choices that hurt the ones they are supposed to love most. But that does not mean the people they hurt are any less valuable or deserving of happiness. The insurance money from Derek's company helped Victoria pay off their mortgage and establish college funds for the boys. She returned to work full-time as a graphic designer and slowly rebuilt her life as a single mother. The experience taught her that she was stronger than she had ever imagined, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior. Derek now lives in a specialized care facility, unable to care for himself or remember most details of his double life. Victoria sometimes wonders if he understands the consequences of his choices, but she has stopped caring about his well-being. Her focus is entirely on helping her sons grow into honest, responsible men who would never dream of betraying the people who love them. The case became a cautionary tale in their community about the importance of honest communication in marriage and the devastating consequences of living a lie. Victoria often tells people that the signs of Derek's deception were always there, but she had chosen to ignore them because she wanted to believe in their perfect life. 3 years later, Victoria is dating again, but she approaches relationships with a healthy skepticism that protects both her and her children. She has learned that real love requires complete honesty. Even when the truth is difficult or uncomfortable, she will never again ignore red flags or accept explanations that do not make sense. The boys are doing well in school and have adjusted to life without their father. They understand that Derek made choices that hurt their family, but Victoria has worked hard to ensure they do not blame themselves for his abandonment. They know they are loved unconditionally and that their mother will always fight to protect them. Victoria's story serves as a powerful reminder that betrayal can destroy lives, but survival is possible for those brave enough to face the truth and fight for their future. Sometimes the most devastating discoveries lead to the most important transformations. If you found Victoria's story as compelling as I did, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was living a double life? How did you handle the betrayal and rebuild your trust in others? Your experiences might help someone else who is facing similar challenges. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into real human drama and survival, make sure to subscribe for more true crime stories that explore the complex realities of human relationships and the courage it takes to seek justice when you have been wronged.